Hello everyone. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to generate a simple level with Edgar. I have a new Unity project here with only the Edgar asset imported. I'm going to create a new folder and an empty scene inside. The next step is to create our first room template. First, create a new folder so that we can organize all the room templates together. Next, go inside that folder and right-click in the project view. Go to Create, Edgar, Dungeon Room Template. This will create a new room template prefab in the current folder. Rename it to anything you want. I'm going to call it Room 1. Next, open the room template prefab. In the hierarchy on the left, we can see that there are several game objects already prepared for us. The tilemap's game object holds a tilemap grid, and the child game objects hold individual tilemap layers that we will use to draw our tiles on. In the inspector window on the right, we can see two components that will be important in a moment. And finally, when inside the room template prefab, you should see the room template status panel. The panel will tell us about the current status of the room template. As you can see now, the status says that the outline of the room template is not valid. If we take a look at the room template settings component, we can see an error that states that there are no tiles in the room template. This makes sense, since we haven't added any tiles yet. Let's go ahead and draw some tiles. Switch to the Tile Palette window. For this tutorial, I'm going to use one of the tile sets that are included in the asset. First, I'm going to select the wall tilemap layer and draw the walls real quick. We can see that once I add the last wall tile, the room template status switches to valid, and we can also see a red gizmo that marks the doors of the room template. We will get back to doors in a moment. Next, I am going to select the floor layer and draw some floor tiles. And we can also use one of the other layers to add some decorations. Next, when the graphics are ready, it's time to mark the available door positions. Before we do that, it's a good idea to deselect the paintbrush tool so that we don't accidentally draw something on the tile maps. Now, switch back to the inspector window and make sure that you have the root game object selected. In Edgar, each room template must have at least a single door position available. These door positions are used to tell the generator how neighboring rooms can be connected together. Door positions are configured with the doors component. There are currently 3 different ways of working with door positions. If this is your first time working with Edgar, I recommend using the simple mode, which is selected by default. The reason is that by using the simple mode, you usually end up having many door positions for each room template, and that means that the generator has a lot of freedom when generating levels, which leads to very quick run times. With the simple door mode, you basically say that you can have doors almost anywhere on the outline of the room template. If you look at the red gizmos, you can see 2 types of rectangles, solid and dashed. The solid rectangles show the size of the doors, which is currently set to 1 tile, and the dashed rectangles show where the doors can be. The simple door mode has 2 basic properties, door length and margin. If I increase the door length value, the solid door rectangles will grow or shrink to show that the door length changed. And with the margin slider, you can configure how far from corners each door must be. For this tutorial, I am going to use door length of 2 tiles and also 2 tiles margin. The next step is creating 2 corridor room templates, one horizontal and one vertical. In Edgar, the main purpose of corridors is to connect 2 neighboring rooms. When generating a level, corridors are placed after all the other rooms, so they will replace the walls of 2 neighboring rooms and will make it possible for the player to go from one room to another. The process will be very similar to what we did with the first room template. Go to the room templates folder, create a new room template, name it something like corridor 1 and open the room template. Now, use the tile palette again to draw the tiles. I will speed this up. Next, I'm going to add the doors. Previously, we wanted to have as many doors as possible, so we used the simple door mode. But now, we want to have exactly 2 door positions, one on each end of the corridor. Therefore, we will use the manual door mode, which lets us choose where exactly all the doors should be. Switch to the manual door mode and click the Add Door Positions button. Now, click on the first tile of the door and drag the mouse to the last tile of the door. This will create a door position with length equal to 2 tiles. Remember that in our first room template we also used doors that were 2 tiles wide. If we want to connect 2 rooms, the corresponding door sizes must be equal. Now let's also add a door position at the other end of the corridor. This corridor room template is now ready, but we also have to create its vertical version. The process is exactly the same as before. Create new room template, draw tiles, and add doors. We now have all the room templates that we need to generate a very simple level. But before we do that, we need to specify the structure of the level. To do that, we have to create a so-called level graph. Go to the Getting Started folder, right-click in the project view, go to Create, Edgar, Level Graph. This will create a new level graph scriptable object. Double-click on the level graph, which should open the graph editor window. In this window, we are going to describe the structure of the level. If I double-click inside the window, it will create a new room. Let's say we want to have 5 rooms in our level, so I'm going to add 4 more rooms. If I hold the Ctrl key and click and drag from one room to another, a connection will be added. That means that in all generated levels, there will be a corridor between all pairs of rooms that are connected. The strength of this level graph approach is that you have complete control over the structure of each level. Let's say that the first room is a spawn room and the last room is a boss room. Maybe we want to have a shop in the middle of the level. Or a treasure room at the end of an optional branch. When we are happy with the level structure, we have to assign our room templates. Click on the level graph again to show it in the inspector window. Now, expand the 2 room templates fields in the inspector. Open the folder with our room templates and add the room 1 prefab to the default room templates field. Then, drag both corridor room templates to the corridor room templates field. With the level graph ready, we are now finally prepared to generate our first level. Open the Getting Started scene. In the hierarchy, create a new game object. Then, add the dungeon generator component. The generator comes with a reasonable default configuration, so the only thing that we really have to do is add the level graph. Take the level graph and drag it into the level graph field in the input config section of the generator. Now, you can scroll down and hit the generate button to generate our first level. If you hit the button again, you'll always get a different level, but all the levels will have the same structure as described in the level graph. You can also generate a level when the scene gets loaded. Just keep the Generate on Start checkbox enabled and enter the play mode. I'm going to quickly remove the current level and zoom out the camera. Now we can enter the play mode and see that a new level was generated. You should now know all the basics to get started with Edgar, but I want to show you one last thing. Right now, the levels we are generating are very simple and boring, so let's make them more interesting. In the room templates folder, I prepared some extra room templates. A large boss room, 2 additional variations for a basic room, a simple shop room, a spawn room with a player prefab placed inside, and finally a small treasure room. Let's add these room templates to the level graph. If you right-click on a room, you can configure that it should have a different set of room templates. Take the spawn room template and add it to the individual room templates field on the right. Do the same for all the other special rooms. Next, add the additional basic room templates to the default pool of room templates. And finally, I am also going to add some more rooms to the level graph. Now, we can generate some more interesting levels. This is all that I wanted to show you in this Getting Started video. If you want to see more tutorials and examples, you can find them in the documentation, which is linked in the description.